Union is an element of the imaginary unit. You and I, conditional expectation. You and I, if and only if approximately. You is not an element of I, is not an element of you, is not an element of I. You and I, symmetric difference. You and I do not intersect. You and I implies distance. Distance is greater than you and I. Distance is parallel to indifference. Indifference is much greater than you, is much greater than I. You and I are less than parallel because you and I are greater than the imaginary unit. And you wouldn't hear it, the dull thudding. You'd have to be lifted into it. Numbered parts accepted and absorbed, hidden but probably not all drained. Stillness immersed in stillness. You can't just drive into it. There is no acceleration, no expectation of your point of arrival worth the time to find and remove. Perhaps the most alien thing would still be the same color overall when flattened. Transmission fluid to check your position, identification from inside, creating a kind of vacuum. To leave a part under a pile of something, a one-dimensional problem proportional to the displacement. You can't just drain this kind of surface boundary and still come out recognizable. Straight through it, the mechanics of only ever looking against the rules I don't understand, now tracing in. In trying to turn away from us, strips intersect. This leading edge pointing at the sky, unable to sustain. A direct instruction filled with air, it would slip. It didn't mean she didn't choose it, she said to her. As long as the turning is just following, it makes sense. The density of what could be bounces inside. The spaces I map, an obstacle to, I have become. Trying to simulate a capacity to break thousands and thousands. Enough to remain, the parts in between can only be changed. Away from us, strips intersect in trying to turn. As closing stung, I wonder how, when caught within, filled with air, it would slip, a direct instruction. The behavior of it, the surface of something, if you touched. The strain to push as pressure takes nothing between. Of the whole turning inside out, just like the waves. etching it then in several gaps and several times. That is already out of flesh as the situation. This other cavity without the polarity we can resolve. Somebody, something beyond burst, a thing one wants. What is the difference in our speeds before repeat? More or less parallel, straight line towards the three-dimensional, turning towards us a target point, an abstract material, a total space between the other, which is without. I no longer find anything but myself and the relation. I want to grasp the other hand, the purely additive. The parts in between can only be changed enough to remain. Like the range, naturally evocative, a sense of depth. A corner in disguise, still not allowing to curve and turn. Beyond the refusal, the ground as we know it, to hear the word. Doing it just, pins to hold in. The next stroke to swallow you is only the halfway point. The distance between waiting for your spine to snap and the coherence to respond. The slanted lines, if you're caught, come together at a point, a brief window of some former self hoping to beat the height of it. Someone who can tolerate, able to slip at an angle to be consistent, who has these lines break out in sweats. Past this point, there is no excuse to dig yourself out. If I could just make it to that slanted diagonal, all while maintaining a singular purpose, focused until I got to the thickness, my mouth and nose would be permanently fixed. Comme le funambule, suspendu à son ombrelle, je m'accroche à mon propre déséquilibre. Gerasim Lucas. Wake up, toothless, the thinning line, carence, carence, great to suck out and fill my throat. If I come pre-picked and cannot wait, you have to ask, I meant to break, c'est force, fond, teaching one side to dip, it's never there, not quite. Wake up, shapeless, fresh out of switches, désaxé, answers to stick, and see, too many pockets, not enough. Why is the ground always gone? The crushing skies, the early skies of early skies still crush. The early skies are never far, never close to keep. Have you ever, as a child, she walks, you walk, she stops, you stop, she turns, you turn, she goes, you go, she stops, you stop, she starts. Wake up, without tragedy, dérive, s'effondre, convinced that they've come to stretch. Ébullition, l'insurmontable, sans brûler and never grip. Though it won't always be this bright, I have one string and I'll play it. Wake up, restless, stays up but might, commence, swallow my feet, make it a choice, see, rip out my cause, je ne suffis plus. Throat to push through and nails to float, et jusqu'ici, il s'y refuse, gaps as it gets and not to sink. The aperture to seize, wake up, spineless. The longer it, relie, rejoue, c'est mon sillon et jusqu'ici, a trail to trace what may, a siren to transcribe, those signs and symptoms only spare, and even when I steal, c'est mon sillon beyond the screen, a little step to lift. Have you ever, as a child, she starts, you start, she stops, you stop, she goes, you go, she takes, you take, she turns, your turn, she smiles, wake up, careless. This time, errance, si lax, and axis like those dreams, comme si construire, don't interrupt une forme more than a trap, à saisir something like relief beyond the frame, a human head or signal to replace. Wake up, wake up, wake up, and how? The ageless mask. Débris messy, if only strings damage your stiff minutes within. It is just me when it is ripe and slow to lift, never too smooth, mais cache-moi ça si bien que sans y croire, tu l'auras comme tu l'as voulu. Have you ever, as a child, she starts, I start, she stops, I stop, she slips, I slip, she turns, I turn, I stop, she stops, I scream, wake up. Useless, the object of patience, ou déjà signe s'y retourne, a square of light or is it sky, and something always comes, on s'y méprend, s'y décolore, a combination to uproot, a square of light, or is it sign, or is it sky, and I can't breathe. Have you ever, as a child, I start, she starts, I turn, she turns, I grab, she grabs, I tear, she tears, I run, she starts to laugh, wake up, weightless, frame looking through des nuits, c'est force et fond, the longer I about to reach, sans pour autant récupérer the right to stroke, pourtant j'attends, Sagittaire list becoming dream, points disconnecting, nail it shut, refusing to repeat. Thank you.